Okay, so now we're going to start talking about round two from episode 147 of the MMA Ratings Podcast. And I just want to sit down with Schwann and talk about some of the news stories that are going around in MMA from this past week. Actually, back to a couple last week to some fight announcements that were made, some new signings, just kind of dabble around in some of those stories and just kind of throw out some ideas and some insight on those pieces. The first one I wanted to talk about was Roy McDonald, former UFC title challenger, former Bellator champion. He has decided to sign with the Professional Fighting League, PFL, and this is coming after PFL did their second season finale on, I think it was on New Year's or the day after New Year's, where they're handing out $1 million checks. And we've seen a couple of other fighters decide to run their opportunity at PFL and see what happens. You know, Kayla Harrison, she won a tournament. She won $1 million. Lance
Did she
Palmer,
really win a tournament, or did she win a series of setup fights?
She got a big ass check that said she got $1 million.
Okay.
Lance Palmer, he won the tournament for the second time around, getting $1 million there as well. So now we see McDonald stepping in. And what are your thoughts about the signing there for him? I think Roy Cooper III won the welterweight division, and he took home the $1 million tournament check this time around. But what do you think about Roy McDonald stepping into the PFL at this stage of his career?
Well, I think it's a good thing because, I mean, it'll be another organization that he can show that he's a high-ranked fighter in. It's a good position because you know who you're fighting. There's none of this last second bring a guy in. You don't know who you're fighting, but there's kind of a chain of command in the fight. So you understand who the field is. You understand when you're fighting. You understand more or less who you're fighting. So you can kind of prepare in a professional manner. As we know in mixed martial arts, whoever's the hottest guy might be the guy getting thrown at you. And sometimes, you know, somebody gets injured. You have no idea who they're going to pull in. They could pull in a guy from the top 5. They could pull in somebody who's number 13. Whoever will take the fight, that's who they're going with. So it's very hard to prepare. It's very hard to protect yourself. It's very hard to be a professional in a sport that seems to thrive on a lack of professionalism. Lastly, it's on ESPN, so he's still on a big format. So any cachet he has as a fighter, any fans he's had as a fighter, they don't have to look for him. You have to look for him on Bellator. You don't have to look for him on the World Series of PFL. Just go to ESPN. So it's a win-win because he's going to get paid very well, whether he wins the tournament or not. You know he's getting paid. He's dealing with fighters he knows that may be athletic, they may be talented, but all of them are hugely, hugely, hugely underdeveloped and lack experience at a world-class level. So he's got that advantage. And finally, he's on a big platform that's going to allow him to, if not build his brand, maintain his brand. Because ESPN is going to market the hell out of him. Former Bellator champion, former UFC challenger, former GSP associate, Rory McDonald. This is like a huge signing for them to have a guy who is currently considered a top 10, probably a top 10 welterweight, even as we stand now. Even though he didn't look great in that loss to Lima, Lima's considered a top 10 welterweight in MMA. So he's still considered, so that it's their first elite fighter who's somewhat close to in his prime that they had under their banner. So it's a win-win all around.
Do you think he is the odds-on favorite to win a tournament now?
Outside of the possibility of him being not durable, I don't see how you can even question it. I mean, John Fitch is pretty much better than anybody else in that tournament. Diego Lima is pretty much better than anybody in that tournament. Even the Gracie he fought, for the most part, would probably be in the top. Yeah, Neiman. He'd probably be in the higher levels of the tournament. All the guys he's fought, Paul Daly would be a favorite in that tournament. Every guy he's lost to or beaten would be a favorite in this tournament. So it's like I said, as far as skill, he's got a better skill set. He's got more experience, and though he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body, the fact of the matter is he's so far ahead of these guys in terms of their functionality, their mental preparation, their technical preparation, and what they face in a cage. A lot of these guys haven't faced a guy with a plan B. They haven't faced a guy who can control a pace. They don't have faced a guy who they can't just overwhelm or break down with pressure. Unless Rory is physically shot, that's not going to happen. I mean, the only guy who's really made him look bad is Gegard Mousasi, and Mousasi would pretty much run the light heavyweight and middleweight division in the Pro Fighters League.
True, true. The next news bit that I wanted to talk about from this week is the announcement of a fight that's been or that's looking to be booked. I don't think it's been 100% announced yet between Jeremy Stevens and Calvin Kattar. They're looking at this for UFC 248. Two men who are coming off of a loss, with Stevens being the elder statesman and Kattar being that younger competitor that's still looking. I mean, he's 31. He's not that much younger than Stevens, who is 33, but he's the newer name. What do you think about this fight? Does this intrigue you right out the gate, or is this an opportunity that I think that Kattar should take advantage of and be able to kind of bounce back to stay relevant at 145?
It's both. I mean, it's a fight. It's a fight that favors both guys because it's a fight between ranked guys. It should be an exciting fight for however long it lasts, and whoever wins this fight will, if not maintain their position, should move up. The thing about it that's concerning for Jeremy Stevens is he has a problem with two things: guys who can move and guys who have good defense. Usually, every time he fights a guy who's got good footwork and good defense, he generally loses. He is just not a very good technical striker, and he's actually gotten better. But I've never seen him really put combinations together. He doesn't really set up his shots very well. He doesn't really feint. He's not very good at defensive maneuvers. He's not good at really countering. He's kind of I have huge moments of offense, and in those huge moments of offense, I do a lot of damage and essentially win fights or turn fights around. But as far as when he can't dictate when exchanges happen or control how long the exchanges are, he generally gets boxed up and broken down. And he's facing Kattar, who's got a great jab, good footwork, good feints, good defense. That's usually kryptonite for Jeremy Stevens. So if Jeremy Stevens wins this fight, that shows me something different. That's something I've never seen from him, beating a poised, disciplined, defensively responsible fighter. I haven't seen that happen. So if he beats this guy, that shows me something. Jeremy Stevens has grown. Maybe Jeremy Stevens has finally figured it out. He's figured it out on the downside of his physical abilities, but he still figured it out. Most likely it's going to be Kattar outboxing him, Jeremy Stevens getting desperate, maybe winning around on the way to getting knocked out. I really favor Kattar in this because he's just got the better skill set. This is a matchup that's constantly caused Stevens trouble. Of course, Stevens has the power, his overrated power too. It's more because he loads up than he actually just has dynamic power. But he's always capable of finishing a fight or turning a fight and putting himself in position to win. But from a technical stand-up, and from a point of who's the fresher fighter and who's the fighter who's showing more skill sets, a wider array of skill sets, it seems to be Kattar, and I would expect Kattar to win. If Stevens won, it wouldn't shock me, but I would be impressed because generally he loses these type of fights pretty embarrassing fashion.
True. Okay. So in light of fight announcements, this fight announcement that came out in, I think, towards the end of December, maybe last week. I don't even really remember, man. The last 2 weeks kind of been a blur. I haven't been working, haven't been doing anything. But we got a fight announcement where Damian Maia and Gilbert Burns are fighting at UFC Brasilia in March. I think it's like March 14th or something like that. I cheered when I saw this fight announcement be made because it's two guys that can grapple their asses off. You have Damian Maia, who is pretty much considered the best jiu-jitsu player in mixed martial arts. He's considered that, but I think that there are some other men and women who can be a part of that conversation. If just people
isn't Gary Tonin the best?
Well, the reason why Damian Maia is widely considered the best is because he's won in ADCC. He won in 2007 and he placed second in 2005. Gary Tonin just actually earned a bronze in ADCC, so that's his first one that he's ever won. But you have Rodolfo Vieira, who's actually fighting at UFC 248 as well. Michelle Nicolini, she's an ADCC champion. Mackenzie Dern is an ADCC champion. Gilbert Burns, he got bronze in ADCC as well too. So there's a lot of high level jiu-jitsu and MMA. People just know Damian Maia just from what he's been able to do for so long. I think Werdum is the ADCC champion as well too. So there's a lot of guys out there who have the name value when it comes to grappling. But Maia is pretty much considered the best just because he has that name value. But as I just
one
said,
time I was the U of H grappling club champion. Is that better than ADCC?
Absolutely not, sir. That is, I would say, that's akin to you maybe taking down one of your daughters right now and potentially submitting her. That's how far beyond the ADCC is between anything else that any of
They're
us
very good
have
athletes.
ever
They're
done.
very good athletes. They know how to grapple a little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. But
They're
this
better
is a
than
fight that really.
who's that girl at 45? Megan Anderson. All my kids have better grappling defense than Megan Anderson. I will guarantee you that.
Definitely. And this fight right here jumped off the page to me because we know Gilbert Burns isn't going to be afraid to play a grappling game with
Do we know
Maia.
that though?
We know that. I think he's not going to be afraid to play that game. I mean, this is a guy who was willing to play the leg lock game with Gary Tunin when they faced off at Polaris. I think it was maybe 2 years ago. Now he lost that game, and Gary Tunin did end up leg locking him, but he's still willing to play that game. I mean, they did the Quintet event, the Quintet Ultra event, a couple maybe like last month, and he carried the team on his back to victory. I mean, he dominated Jake Shields at in the final match of the night as well too. So we know this guy can get out there, and we know he can grapple. Me, I'm excited about this fight because I think it's going to look different. I think they may strike a little bit, but I think we're going to see these two guys go down to the ground. We're going to get to see some real work. What are your thoughts about a fight between Maia and Gilbert Burns at 170?
I don't think Gilbert Burns is afraid of him. I just don't think Gilbert Burns is gonna give him the fight that gives him a chance of winning. I'm not saying Gilbert Burns can't submit him. I'm not saying he can't take him down and ground and pound him. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying, why would you give a guy a fight that he has the best chance of winning? Why would you engage in him when you don't necessarily have to? If Maia can put me on the ground, then yeah, I might work on that. Or maybe I guess if he takes him down, because I haven't seen Maia work a tremendous guard game. Usually when he gets taken down, he kind of, with guys who got experience or some control, they can usually ride him out a little bit. But why would I even? He's a guy who's in his 40s, who's not a good striker, who's good at pressuring and has a certain amount of defensive acumen. But when you start getting into exchanges or you start putting shots together, Maia's defense does not generally hold up. He's not a plus athlete. He never was, and he for sure isn't now. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't you just take the easy road? If Maia can get me down, if he can put me in these bad positions, then yeah, sure, I'll engage with them and I'll counter him and I'll engage on my terms. But otherwise, why would I give Maia the fight he wants? When in theory, Maia shouldn't have anything for Gilbert Burns on the feet. Gilbert Burns should be able to take him down, pound him out real quick, get back up. He should be able to put a jab on him, leg kick him, put some combinations together. Now, he might choose to engage him, just like, what was his name? Gunnar Nelson did, just like Jake Shields did, just like Ben Askren did. But that would give Maia a chance to win. That would give Maia a chance to, if you put Maia in a 3-round grappling fest or 5-round grappling fest, he's not going to really get tired. He's not going to really get punished. And you're going to have him in a comfort zone. Whether you're better than him or not, he's going to be comfortable the whole fight throughout. Why would you allow him to be comfortable? Why would you allow him to be in a position of power?
And my thought about that is I wonder if this fight is going to look similar to when Jake Shields and Damian Maia fought, because remember, there were a lot of scrambles there where Jake Shields was able to do enough and hold position enough to get the win there. But my question before I point that out is if Gilbert Burns has the size that Jake Shields had over Maia. I think that's the key difference when wondering if this fight is going to play out the same way.
Well, yeah, that, and then also, once again, I don't know that Maia can handle scrambles at this point anymore. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't know that Maia has the conditioning or the youth. He can handle 1 or 2, but I don't know that he can handle 2, 3, 4 scrambles. I don't know that he can handle a position where he can't clearly dominate on the ground. I mean, most people are afraid to engage Maia. When he gets his hands on him, he kind of dictates pace. He dictates where the fight goes. He's got people on the defensive. I don't know that he can keep Gilbert Burns on the defensive the whole time. How long has it been since Damian Maia's had to defend a submission? How many times has Damian Maia had to worry about someone submitting him or putting him in a position or putting pressure on him? I don't know when the last time that's been. So Damian Maia may not hold up under those circumstances. But once again, the only reason I say why take him to the ground is because whether you're better than him or not, whether he's older, whether he's not, that's the place he's strongest in. That's the place he's most comfortable in. That's the place he's least likely to expose himself or least likely to get tired in. Mm-hmm. So why even give him the chance when you could kind of put a combination together and put him away? You can't get wild. You can't get, or then again, maybe Gilbert Burns can get crazy because he knows he has enough defensive skills and enough submission skills. But if he gets taken down, he can get back up. If he gets taken down, he can work his way out of bad position. If he gets taken down, maybe he can threaten Damian Maia with a sub. Most guys know they don't have any chance of submitting Damian Maia, so they get really disciplined in how they fight him, and they don't take any chances because they're so fearful. Gilbert Burns might not have that fear. That might work for him. It might work against him.
True. The last news bit I wanted to talk about today is not an announced fight, but it's Ryan Hall. He's out here calling out anybody that he potentially can. And he mentioned Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar. Now, that jumped off the page to me. I think those are two interesting fights to even kind of throw out there. I think Hall is ranked at number 14 and Aldo is at 4 in featherweight and Edgar's at 6, I believe, right now. So what are your thoughts about this here? Do you think that would happen? I mean, both of these guys are both down at 135 now. And if you had to book a fight for Ryan Hall, who would you put him against? My vote out the gate would be Kron Gracie, but that's neither here nor there because I do think Hall is at the point where he deserves a ranked opponent.
Well, the big thing about Hall is, once again, he's a martial artist, and this isn't very martial art in its approach to it. He wants to get fight, and he wants fights with guys who excite him and guys who create interest. So, in a sense, in a roundabout way, he's about money. He's about establishing himself as well. Because the fact of the matter, he's calling out guys who who not counting the losing streaks, they're just names. And Frankie Edgar hasn't been one of the best in the world in a little bit, in my opinion. And Jose Aldo, while he's still one of the best in the world, he's nowhere near the guy he used to be. So you're wanting to fight a guy who's been knocked out a couple times and is essentially on a 2-fight losing streak. That's the guy you want to challenge? That doesn't sound like a very honorable or warrior type thing to do. Not calling into question his character. I'm just saying it doesn't seem that way. I guess Frankie Edgar would be the best fight because his chin isn't there anymore, and Ryan Hall's long range kind of traditional martial arts type style of kicking to the body and kicking to the head, he might be able to extend the fight and maybe catch Frankie or at least hold him off at bay where it's not a fight that he has to get into any exchanges or any scrambles in. I don't know how comfortable Frankie is taking his chances with Ryan Hall on the ground. Against Jose Aldo, I just don't, even in this version of Aldo, I don't see how he beats him. I mean, Aldo's a striker and he's still athletic in spots. I feel he could find a way to counter Hall and just chop him up and stay at distance for the majority of the fight to win a decision. It wouldn't be an exciting one. It wouldn't be a pretty one, but I feel that he's got enough defensive takedowns, defensive awareness from submissions, and quite frankly, his defensive footwork and the feints are enough that I think he can control the fight and just win a boring, ugly fight. But that's why nobody wants to fight Hall. You lose to him, it's a huge step back for you. And even if you beat him, it's not the kind of fight that people are going to remember or think well of you for.
True. I think Ryan Hall is an interesting challenge. He has come out and started naming names of some people that have been turning down fights when pitched against him. So I do think he is.
What's in it for them, though?
That's what I was about to say. He's a puzzle that people don't want to try to figure out because it's not that he can't be figured out, but it's something that you have to go to the lab and almost change your game to figure out how to fight him and how to defeat him, how to defeat him long enough to get a decision. Or, I mean, because he's not going to let you hit him with anything big that puts him out. And the minute you get close enough to get your hands on him, he's going to the ground and he's playing in his guard. So you got to know how to win points against him. But that's going to require someone to really change their game and be able to defeat him.
That's why I said Aldo would be a problem because Aldo can be on his back foot and just make him come to him. He's not going to catch Aldo with the little switch kick. That's not going to do it. That ain't going to get it. That works against Gray Maynard because Gray Maynard can't strike. That works against some of the other guys because they don't faded BJ Penn, some of these other guys who don't have any striking pedigree, who don't know how to manage distance, don't know how to apply pressure, don't know how to counter, don't understand spacing. So many guys are still such terrible defensive strikers and such terrible strikers overall that he can exploit that and just chop them up. And either they have to force takedowns or just stay on the feet and get chopped away at. Jose Aldo is not going to get chopped away. He'll just parry, slip. And if nobody lands anything, the fight's going to go in Jose's favor. He's a bigger name. He's a more established fighter. It doesn't matter if he doesn't do anything. If he doesn't do anything and Ryan Hall doesn't do anything, it's going to Jose Aldo. He would have to take chances to get to Jose Aldo because Jose Aldo is defensively aware and has enough wrestling to defend. Even if he gets in a position, Jose Aldo is going to try to punish you. He's going to punish you before he escapes. He's not just going to hang on and seek to run away. I think he's got enough skill and he'd make it hard enough for Ryan to get to the spots he needs to get in to tempt those takedowns, those rolls, barrel rolls to get to the takedowns, the Mari rolls, even to get in position to jump guard. I think Jose Aldo fighting off the back foot, using the jab and feints, controls the pace and kind of just picks him apart. And even if he doesn't land anything big, all he has to land is 1 or 2 shots. He wins the round. Ryan Hall's going to actually have to do something dramatic to get a win over someone like a Jose Aldo. Frankie Edgar, on the other hand, I feel is a little bit more vulnerable and has a few less tools to work with. He's more of a risk to getting beat by Hall. But once again, why would he take that fight? There's nothing in it for him. The same reason Ryan Hall won't fight guys ranked below him, because there's nothing in it for him. I mean, it's not about honor. It's not about fighting. It's about moving ahead. And he's trying to call out names so he can move ahead. But there's nothing in it for them. Beating Ryan Hall does nothing for Frankie Edgar. It does nothing for Jose Aldo.
Very true there, sir. I agree with that. And as much as I want to see Ryan Hall fight, I can totally agree with that thought there.